I want to check in with the pulse of the Nebraska fan base. So let's welcome in Sean Callahan of Husker Online. Been a few weeks, a few major commitments since we've had you on. I want to ask you, how did Nebraska fans handle Dylan Raiola's commitment to Georgia?
Well, I think people really felt it was coming. The tea leaves read that way. He never came back for the spring game, and he never set an official visit. So I thought those were two pretty good clues where things stood. Mm-hmm. Georgia, on the other hand, was his only official visit, and then he had that May 20th weekend visit there as well set up. So I think a lot of educated Husker fans knew Georgia was the team to beat. I think the question was, where would they go next? And I think what was more impressive is they were able to pivot to Daniel Kaelin from Bellevue West, convince him to decommit from Missouri and commit to Nebraska really within a week. Raiola went to Georgia Monday. Kaelin announced he was a Husker by Saturday.
So give me the behind the scenes on that. How does something like that go down where the staff seemingly pivots in a matter of days, or was something kind of brewing behind the scenes the whole time?
Well, they only offered two quarterbacks under Matt Rule on this cycle. It was Dylan Raiola and Daniel Kaelin, and that was the other guy. And they were upfront and honest with him. They said, look, here's the deal. Raiola's a legacy. He's number one ranked quarterback in the country. We have to see this thing through. And Kaelin said that's fine. And then he had 15 Power 5 offers of his own, chose to commit to Missouri. That was a really good fit for him. He liked everything about Missouri, but deep in his heart, he always wanted to be a Husker. That's like a lot of kids around here. They want to play for Nebraska. He grew up following the program. But by Tuesday, Nebraska had coaches at Bellevue West High School watching him throw. Their offensive coordinator got on a plane to fly back to Omaha to watch him throw on Tuesday. And then they had another coach there at the same school to see another player. So they put the full court press on to really turn that thing in less than a week.
All right, so break it down for me. How does he fit into Matt Rule's offense at Nebraska?
I think when you look at him, he's not necessarily a true dual threat quarterback. He can run, though, enough. But he's very, very intelligent. He's got real good arm talent. I'm going to be intrigued to see him at the Elite 11 later this month in June. He's one of the 20 quarterbacks that will be there. Dylan Raiola is going to be there. So I think for a lot of folks, that will be a good opportunity. But on the 7-on-7 scene, he's got quite a reputation. He's been able to do quite a few different things as a quarterback on the 7-on-7 front as well.
One of the more interesting weekends in the spring was when Nebraska hosted the three number one prospects at their position. Obviously, Dylan Raiola was the number one quarterback at his position. Brandon Baker, though, he was there too. He's the top offensive tackle in America. And Williams Nwaneri, the number one defensive lineman in America. Where does Nebraska stand with the other two? Now, we know Raiola is committed to Georgia, but what about Baker and Nwaneri?
Yeah, I would say Nwaneri, they're on the outside looking in that one, but I do think they are still in it with Baker. And he's probably going to take one of his official visits to Nebraska. A lot of chatter that'll be for the Michigan game. And I'll throw in a fourth number one because On 3 has Nathaniel Frazier as the number one ranked running back in the country. He too was in Nebraska that same weekend, and he might come to Nebraska as well on that same weekend. So that's a bye weekend for Mater Dei. I think that's the key for Baker. He has seen Nebraska now twice. A regular weekend, a spring game weekend, and now the next step for him, if he comes back a third time, he wants to come and experience Nebraska at its fullest, come to a true home game. So hopefully that Michigan game is kind of what they're eyeballing at the end of September.
Does the Raiola recruitment, since it went the other way, does it kind of change the outlook for Nebraska's 2024 class, or is there still enough excitement around Matt Rule's first year to still land a monster class in 24?
I think it's a good question because obviously he's the number one ranked quarterback, and a lot of people see him as maybe the number one player in the country. But if you're real about things, I don't know if Nebraska was ever going to get him. I think the timing just wasn't right for what he was looking for and where Nebraska was at as a program. I still believe this can be a top 25 class. Right now it's ranked 25th. I think there's some key in-state pieces they've got to close out on. Carter Nelson being the tight end out of Ainsworth. They've got to figure out linebacker. That's one position that they don't really have a lot of things going. right now. And then, they've got to get a big piece like a Brandon Baker or Nate Frazier would be unbelievable. But those are some of the other things that they've got to get shored up here in this recruiting class. And they'll probably take about 20 guys. I mean, that's the number I think they're looking at right now.
Okay, so they're sitting at around 25 right now. So just ballpark it. Where do you expect Nebraska to finish when it's all said and done?
I think they can be inside the top 25. I don't know if they can be in the top 15. I mean, it's just they've got to get a few more things that break their direction, but that's okay. I think Matt Rule has a system and a way he does it. He did the same thing at Baylor. He looks for a certain type of player, a guy that can run and do some certain things from an intangible perspective. And we've seen that trend play out with a lot of these recruits that he signed, a lot of elite track athletes, guys that have just different things that don't necessarily show up on a football page. But I do believe it will be a top 25 class.
All right, Sean. Well, it's already been a busy cycle. We're only like halfway through, and the roller coaster ride for Nebraska fans has been wild. And there's some big official visits coming up. So we hope to have you back on the Inside Scoop soon.
All right. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. And remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.